Harvey,
Here.
and Teresa. And who, are we missing anybody else? Rusty. Okay. Ken, will you lead us in the invitation, please?
Sure, Your Honor. Lord, we just thank you and praise you for the privilege of being able to serve our community. Lord, we ask for your guidance, for wisdom and discernment as we make decisions that impact the health of our community. Lord, we ask you to be good stewards over everything that we've been entrusted and to be challenged to do our very best for this community. Father, we just ask this stuff in your son's name. Amen.
And thank you. Moving on, do we have any public comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the approval of the previous minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read them?
Motion to accept.
We have a motion to accept. We need a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. Kurt, moving into your update.
All right, just a couple things that wouldn't normally show up on the docket. We're always doing work, Deborah and I, with SMA and Lutheran Services and DCF. And, you know, you almost have to plan out 3 to 5 years in advance what funding you would need for a large-scale project. So we have 2 really large-scale ones coming online this year. One is the central receiving facility that I brought up several times before, and then also the Women's Inpatient Treatment Center for women with substance use disorders and their substance-exposed newborns. Both of them required us to get capital for their facilities from multiple sources, and also the opioid settlement committee. They approved some capital expenditures, and then we got an allocation from the state last year of 21 beds for inpatient treatment for the women. And then we've been working really hard on additional funding because they had much more capacity planned out for the new building for women and the substance-exposed newborns. And there was a bid put out that we were made aware of, so we worked with SMA on a $3 million bid for 24 additional inpatient beds for Marion County, and we got it. So, yeah, it was huge. So that's $3 million a year going forward. So unless something happens to the economy, or if there's a cut in expenditures, that is a major coup for Marion County and our citizens. And we're just glad it came, because you know, a lot of times we'll plan this out and you have to do it in pieces. What's available and what funding can we get? So now we're up to, for new inpatient services for the central receiving facility inpatient beds, and then also for the women's center, I think we're up to a total of 45 beds that we'll have once those come online this year. So a big turnaround for our county. The other thing that I want to bring up, during the pillar workshop, I provided a white paper, one of the exciting readings on the potential of building up a CPR and choking first aid initiative, where it was on a much larger scale, and how we could basically increase the chances of intervention when life-saving measures are needed. And I read a model that another community tried to initiate, a much larger community, where they tried doing mass trainings to 50% of the able-bodied citizens in the county. They're in year 2 of this initiative. So we're getting together, I think it's on February 10th, with the major players who already provide CPR and first aid training: Marion County Fire Rescue, Ocala Fire Rescue, the hospital district, and then also Mark Lander with the Department of Health. And we're going to get together, we're going to pool our resources, and I'll bring back to the trustees how we can expand out CPR and choking mitigation trainings across the county. So I'll bring that to the next meeting. And then lastly, we had a wonderful holiday thank you from staff, the trustees pitched in, and they provided the staff with incredible holiday luncheon. We went to the Chop House down in the Villages, and the trustees also provided some gift bags. So it was a tremendous time to bond, and staff truly appreciated it. So we wanted to convey our thanks to you for really thinking of us. Thank you.
All right, that's it. Do you want to let Nathan, is he in? Okay.
We're going to go to the finance room today, so we just have.
It's just him and Jane.
Okay, it's up.
It is?
I'm just waiting on them.
Okay.
I need to hear the ding ding.
Nathan?
No, he's coming. Join.
Hello everyone, can you hear us?
Yes. You're up, so you can jump right into it.
The headphones.
Alright. Perfect. We've got a few things to talk through today. We'll start with the performance report, then we'll just talk a bit about the current projects we're working on, and we'll be bringing to you next month on spending analysis. We'll give you a quick update on program training with the board of trustees, and then finally just talk about timing around the next quarterly dashboard update. So on the performance report, which is in your packs, I guess 5 high-level takeaways before I pass over to Jacob to talk about markets. The first one is that markets fell in December and in Q3 in general. Mainly on fears actually the interest rates are going to be cut this year is slower than previously expected. The second point is therefore the portfolio fell down in December, so nothing is out of the ordinary, nothing is out of what we would expect in this type of market environment. Portfolio is down a little over 2% versus the index of 1.6%. The third point is because the year end marked a point where a number of the 3 OCIO managers are making changes to their portfolio to move in line with the IPS, we did see some point in time out of compliance allocations, but as Teresa, Kurt and Deborah know, working through the paperwork with a lot of the providers, so that this is all expected to be temporary. Fourth point is, I think the longer term narrative, and what I think is really important for us as a group to remember, and we've got a slide on this that we'll talk about in a minute, continues to be one that the portfolio is healthily outperforming inflation, but continues to lag the inflation plus 4 target. And then the final point is that now that we've got 3 years worth of data, when we're comparing the performance, the relative performance of the 3 providers, it's healthier to use the longest available period. So, in the 3 years, 2024, 2023, 2022, we see Crescent performing the best at about 2.8%, Greystone about 2.5%, and Truist at 2.2%. But all 3 are slightly back in the index. So that continues to be an area of focus and hope for ongoing improvement there. With that, I'll pass over to Jacob.
Let me share my screen quickly. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
So before I dive into this number specifically, kind of want to take a step back and look for the quarter as a whole. So in October, we saw a lot of volatility month out from the presidential election, where you're presented with 2 very different paths, tax policy and the regulatory environment, etc. We had a somewhat disappointing jobs print that month with some of the natural disasters that have happened during the time frame. And this is where we actually see inflation tick up again and some better commentary, tempering expectations for the number of rate cuts to be expected in 2025. As we move into November, we have the presidential election, Donald Trump wins, and the market reacts very positively to that. mainly the implications of the extension for the 2017 tax cuts in an easier regulatory environment. And then as we will get into today, across the board, we see markets are basically down in December, and this is really kind of a reassessment of the current administration's fiscal proposals, and again, the expectation that the Fed may only cut rates twice throughout the rest of this year. So as we dive into December a little bit deeper, the broad U.S. equity market was down by about 3%, as measured by the Wilshire 5000. But this is really capping off a very strong year for U.S. equities, which returned about 23.8% on the year. And across sectors, performance was flat to negative, with consumer discretionary leading the pack there. As we move abroad, actually outperformed the U.S. market on a basis, with developed posting a loss of 2.3%, and emerging markets barely coming under, down 14 basis points on the month. And really the story with developed is the Eurozone continues to face headwinds with the lower growth prospects. And then if we look at Europe's largest economy, Germany, we see they continue to face increased competition from China and the suddenly high energy prices. As we move into the fixed income side, this is where we're really kind of seeing investors reassess the new administration's fiscal initiatives, and mainly the idea of extending the tax cuts, but also simultaneously increasing spending in other areas, further widening the gap, the U.S. deficit. So over the quarter, the 10-year Treasury did rise meaningfully, up 79 basis points from its September close. And this is where, this is just indicative of a somewhat diminished outlook in the fiscal health of the United States. And you see this downstream as well as high yields fell by 43 basis points on the month. As we move on to real assets, this is more of the denominator effect. As interest rates rise, this tends to lower the current value of these assets. And we see that reflected here in performance, with the Wilshire Global Real Estate Index falling by about 7.8%, or 7.3%, and the Global War Infrastructure Index falling by 5.8%. And really to round out commodities, somewhat of a mixed basket there. We did finish them on positive, up by about 1%. So I will pause here in case there are any questions. And if not, I will pass it off to Nathan for the portfolio.
There's really only two slides I want to focus on. The first one is the MCHD corpus slide. I believe it's slide 16 within your board pack. Previously, you may remember this was a table of 1,000 numbers that's quite hard to digest, but really important, transparent information that tracks the value of the portfolio. Ever since inception in 2014, it compares it versus what the corpus was in nominal terms, which was about 193 million, and then the inflation-adjusted number. What we've done on this chart is added an additional line, which is the CPI plus 4 number. And so it really provides, I guess, guardrails or tracks where we're evaluating the success of the investment program. And you can see the portfolio value there in blue. And I think the narrative to take away is, one, since inception, we've healthily beaten by 55 million, $54 million, the value of just the corpus plus inflation. But on the other hand, we are 28 million or so below where we want to be. So that 338 is our kind of long-term target. That's what we're expecting the portfolio to perform. And clearly, at points in the past, before the 2022 market correction, that's where we were. I think what is positive when we think of the last 2 years or so is that we're starting to catch up. We're not there yet, but we're catching up and we're making some ground. And then the final slide is the aggregate performance table slide. So I think that's slide 26 in your board packs. And again, a table of a lot of numbers. One important point that we expect we've changed this month Because even though we speak monthly, we don't want to exclusively focus on the 1 month performance. So we put since inception numbers at the beginning on the left-hand side, and the 1 month numbers all the way on the right. And so for the longest possible data, 2.25 years, the portfolio is up 12% on an annualized basis. And then even in the calendar year 2024, despite the recent drop, we're still up almost 10%. So just kind of bear that in mind, because I want to start moving some of the narrative within its longer term story as opposed to just the month by month gyrations that markets will naturally bring us. I'm happy to talk about any sources about performance or underperformance, but those were really the prepared comments. Any comment or any questions on the performance report before we move on to the other 3 agenda items?
Hearing none.
Okay. So agenda item number 2 on the spending analysis. This is just to really highlight the fact that, at the moment, how we calculate what the annual budget is for spending is taking, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt and Austin, but taken as a single point calculation. What is the value of the portfolio in the middle of the year, and 4% of that value becomes what the budget is for the preceding fiscal year. What we're running analysis on, and ultimately what we would like to move to, is move to a 12-quarter rolling average. There's a number of reasons for that you'll see, but we want to run all of the analysis to look at what is the implication of making this methodology change, and we'll bring that to you next month. But I think that the strongest argument, I'm half looking at Kurt here, I think that quite a large proportion of what we spend on an annual basis is ongoing grants. I can't remember the exact term of it, but what we're talking about by this methodology change is really smoothing out what we're spending on a year-by-year basis and much better matching the proportion of ongoing grants to organizations and projects around the community. So watch this space. I just wanted to highlight it, and if there's anything you're interested in or any point of analysis you want us to include within our work, do let us know. Third point, really quickly, we've made some really...
Nathan,
Sorry.
Rich has some comments.
I agree with that, Nathan. So let's say the portfolio grows at 10% a year, and you take, and it started at 100 million, so at the end of the year it's 110 million. If you take the average, it's going to be 105 million, right? So you're going to get 4% of what the portfolio is not worth. It may be worth more, it may be worth less. I think it's the right thing to do, but people need to be prepared to realize that the spend is probably going to be less than the year before, the first year. And then it resets itself at that point and then goes forward. And that would absolutely smooth that curve out, so we're not doing this. But people need to be prepared for that. And the second thing is, maybe we can get a Monte Carlo soon, so we can just take a look at that and know that we're safe, the 4% is safe in perpetuity.
Yes, that's the exact intention, Rich. So we're looking back, but the last 10 years or as long as we have data to say how would things have been different, and it will show exactly what you said. In years where, like this last year, when the portfolio is up 10%, we'll actually only be taking a third of that. We won't be spending as much as if we were to move it, year in, year out. On the flip side, in 2022, when markets were down 20, it's not that spending falls off a cliff, but you see a much smaller step down. And then, to your point, we will be running Monte Carlo simulation to say, does this impact the likelihood of us achieving our investment objectives by changing the methodology?
Okay, thanks.
Joe?
So again, I'm still learning, but would not it be an objective to get the corpus amount, tracking at the 4% number as opposed to just CPI? So the two graphs that were presented, we were between the two. Would it not be the objective that the fund amount, tracks with the inflation plus 4% line, which we're currently, 28 million below.
But those are not real numbers, right? Those are what it should be. So, so I think that number you're talking about is about $38 million more than we actually have. So we would be spending 4% of 38 million more than we have. Right, Ken? That, you know what I'm saying? If you do that, you pretend we're making money that we may or may not be making. Now, we may be higher than that, or we may be lower than that. We've generally been lower than that.
Yeah, I was just thinking in absolute terms. I mean, maybe they're related. I don't know if they are though. So you know, we had an initial amount in the orange. Can you bring that graph up? The orange line, blue line, 16.
Thank you.
I mean,
And I'm just trying to, you know, kind of frame a lot of this stuff myself. But so the orange line is, you know, the fund amount plus inflation.
That's 4%.
And then the yellow line was the fund amount. I guess there's an objective that it grows by 4%. And that's what that yellow line would represent, had that
Inflation
happened.
plus 4%.
Is that correct?
It's inflation plus 4%.
Okay. And then the blue is where we currently are. And so if an objective was that we grow the fund at 4%, would it not be, you know, because of 2022, you know, is there pressure for us to perhaps spend less money also to grow the corpus back up to that targeted number?
That's 38 number?
The yellow line.
Right.
Well, okay, I mean, that's a decision. That's a legitimate question. The problem with that, that's why Monte Carlo will help. So Monte Carlo will tell you what's really going to happen over the next 40 years, provided the asset allocation is where it is and the assumption for inflation.
Well, I mean, it's trending like maybe it's just you wait it out 5 years, we get there, and that's part of it.
Yeah, the one thing though, the deal with the people we give money to is if you do what you say you're going to do, we will not cut your
Right.
funds. So the trick then is to make sure that you have enough discretionary every year to cover exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we say we're gonna spend 12 million, but we really budget 10.5, and we have 1.5 million discretionary. And if it's not going the way we want it to go, then your discretion is zero, you know? But the impetus for this whole thing was to make sure the 501c3s know what money they're getting, they don't have hat in hand all year, and they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and they're gonna get paid to do it. And that really relieved a lot of CEOs' stress on, are we having a cupcake sale next week, you know?
Right.
So that was the idea. So what the trick then would be, Ken, I guess, is increase the discretionary side and don't increase any new projects.
Yeah.
For the first year.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so if it is an objective to get the blue line to the yellow line, then there's some decisions we need to make, and it influences a number of different things. If it's not, it's something to monitor, well, then we just monitor it.
The only other thing, and we could beat this to death, is there's an anomaly with the inflation, right? The inflation for the last 2 years is the highest it's been in 40 years. So the growth of that line, you see how it was actually below us for a while, right? And we're doing good, and then inflation went up, and our income went down in 22, 21, 22. That's what killed us. But that's really an anomaly. You know, when inflation goes up, earnings go down, and that was really a mess. If that...
I think something else went on about that time too, I'm sure. Sorry,
I mean, if you would erase that, the thing would probably be an straight one. So, and that's when we ran Monte Carlo then, because everybody started getting real nervous. They're like, oh my God, we're going the wrong way, you know?
Yeah.
But I agree with you, not that my opinion is a whole lot, but I agree with you, we have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it should be
But
a target.
there was an event, you know, in 22 that probably should be heavily discounted, and that's that, you know, March, remember March, the stock market went down like 34% or something, you know, with COVID and all that crap. So, yes, it's something to be concerned with, yes. But I don't think it's something that should be set in policy yet,
Okay.
in my opinion. I don't know, what maintenance, have we got a more valid opinion on?
Nathan?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's being said. You know, this is the yellow line is an aspirational target. It's one that we deliberately tried to achieve, but we also don't, officially, it's not officially in the IPS. And to Rich's point, it's more of a governance oversight that we are spending year in, year out, what the budgeted amount is, but it's the budgeted amount of the blue line. And really what we're talking about is extending the measurement point. So, taking the horrible year of 2022, if we were to take 4% of that figure, it's going to be a lot less. There's going to be a lot harder conversations for organizations that are relying on this year-by-year commitment from MCHD versus taking the 12-quarter average that was smoothed out considerably. But we just need to, cross the T's and dot the I's to be able to prove that there's no long-term negative impact on the portfolio.
Or to our end users? Or to the people receiving the funding?
Right. And I think the Monte Carlo will answer a lot of those questions.
So look for that to come next month with our initial analysis, and any further analysis that needs can be done in sort of subsequent months. The aim here is really for a decision by call it the middle of the year. So when it comes to ourselves and Manos and equipment to calculate the next year, that we're all agreed on what the methodology is. So that was the second point. Talked about training. We've met with the vast majority, and we'll try and finalise with the final few trustees before next meeting. Hopefully that's been helpful for all. Do note with Kimberly and Deborah, just so they can be recorded for your annual training requirements. And then the final point that Wilshire had, which is just that quarterly OCIO dashboard, because it takes those, the investment advisors a month or so to get back to us, it's always going to be with about a 2-month lag that we report to you. So it will, at best, next month we'll be reporting what the Q4 results are for the dashboard, but it may be pushed into March.
Okay.
And that was it.
Any questions? Any other questions? Nathan, Jaden, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all stay warm.
Hey.
I see snow.
Okay.
I thought that was a mural.
Moving on, you're going to handle operations today, Kurt?
Yes. Let me see what's next.
Vacant space.
I'm trying to multitask, it's not working out. So, oh yeah, vacant space, page 36. Thank you.
He thought you said out in space.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, space, let me just pull it up. So, for several years since we moved in here, our total space here is a little over 10,000 square feet for the office. And then when we negotiated the deal with part of Florida next door, they had to provide us with about 4,500 additional square feet. And it was really to help offset the $2 million that we provide them to build out their facilities. So the space next to us has remained pretty much vacant. When we built this out, we did do some preliminary work over there with the sprinkler systems, and also brought in some components over there so we could put bathrooms in certain areas. And the idea was that we would develop something that would work alongside our Active Marion project and fitness and nutrition in schools. So we would have a facility that would bring together Advent Health, part of Florida, and our programs for diabetes education and treatment center. And so we finally decided, okay, well, there's whenever we work out these programmatic methods to bring these programs in and collaborate with Active Marion Project and Fitness and Nutrition in the schools, we can't wait 6 months or 8 months to get it going. So what we did was we asked Michelle Parton, who did the rendering of this facility, to give us some ideas to build out the facility next door for Diabetes Education and Treatment Center. So this was just the very first draft that we got this week, and we wanted to share it with you just to solicit your ideas. It's our first time really looking this over, but the goal of this would be, we do have some office space up front here. Our office to the hospital district is here, and then this is where the former liquor store, the empty space is, which is about 4,500 square feet. And so we would have individuals, let's say they are citizens of Marion County who are being treated for pre-diabetes, diabetes, or obesity, and they join our program, and we would have 3 office spaces here for triage therapy and a regular office space, but really it's for diagnostics, blood draws, and also testing for A1C. We would do some pre-diagnostics, and then in this middle section, it would be for our diabetes classes, and also in collaboration with Department of Health, we do diabetes education and healthy eating classes. And then we have this kitchen area that we put in here. There was, we actually saw a model of this in Orlando, where their hospital district in Orlando was working with Advent Health, and they had a similar setup. It was just rearranged a little different, where they had this kitchen, which was a demonstration kitchen with cold storage behind it, where they could bring in the fresh foods and fresh vegetables, and they would bring into the kitchen, provide the demonstration classes for the audience, and then also videotape it, so they would have a repository of healthy education classes for, and we would, previously we talked about bringing in local celebrity chefs to help us generate interest in the healthy cooking. So we'd be happy to walk you through if you want to see the space, and if you have ideas for modification. That we're just starting this out and would solicit your feedback on it.
Is a ballpark figure on how much?
So when we asked Steve Allen from Talon, he said for this kind of arrangement, he assumed it would be about $100 per square foot. So it'd be 4.5 to 500,000. 450,000, 500,000. Let's say.
Let's not say 4.5.
Thank you.
I
There we go.
25.
That 4.5 million. Walk through it, and anytime we'd be happy to walk you through and get you an idea. It's actually huge because it's half the size of this.
So what is your goal? Is it this year project and put it on the radar? What are we looking
It'll probably be, if we were to do it this year, probably run into 2 fiscal years.
So the goal would be to finalize the rendering, and then work on with our attorneys who are looking into the parameters for us for the bidding process, because there's a threshold where it's prevailing wages or not. We think this is under, but we want to validate that, and then, so we would come back to the board with the procurement process and approval on that.
for? When you do that, can you include how much usage you think we'll get out of it?
Yeah, we'll put a, in fact, I'll send that out in between. It
Do you
won't be.
expect any income? Any income on that thing?
Not so much. No.
Yeah, good luck.
Doing a takeout there?
Maybe. Celebrity chefs.
Celebrity chefs.
Rich.
Rich people.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
since you're eating something.
So he's gonna have classes for payers too?
All right, so this is just an FYI, we'll come back with additional information and
How are we gonna fund it?
Cupcake sales, basically.
Healthy cupcakes.
Healthy cupcake sales.
So that's, I mean, our expense would be the build out, and I believe I recall saying, Agnes would be providing the medical support to provide the pre and post diabetic treatment or testing. We've already got resources that could do the training. So are there any anticipated at this point ongoing expenses for the district? Additional?
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
Probably electricity, that's about it.
Insurance.
So we'll write, it depends on who our partners are, if we fill in the gaps. The only thing that we've seen, such as if we're doing blood draws, maybe some of the supplies that have to do with the testing for A1C and.
That's already in the AM budget too.
All right, then it'd be minimal, but we'll write that out in the, I don't want to call it white paper because no one will read it then. But I'll do that in the program description. I'll come up with the estimates. And just one other thing, we're gonna go ahead and make your life a little easier with the iPads and our lives a little easier too. We're going to start working with a software application that'll be on each iPad. You can actually bring it home, and we can update the information through a web portal, and everyone will have the same information. You'll have access to not only your board packet, but all prior board packets. When you log in, it'll be your digital documents to write on. You can actually write on it and take notes or highlight. And that way, when you come to the meeting, it's for you to view. So you guys can take these home from now on, and when you get here, it'll be magically uploaded with all the new documentation.
You're gonna need 10 chargers.
And 10 chargers, at least.
And
We'll have
insurance on every one.
You're right.
We'll have extra chargers. But as of right now, we do everything manually, so we just hope that every document's on there. So this should standardize the process and take us to that new level. And it was very inexpensive. It was a few $1,000s per year for this service. So we'll be in, Kimberly's looking forward to managing that.
Strategic initiative, Stephanie?
Okay, so the Freedom Clinic is going from paper to EMR, which electronic medical records, which is a daunting task for those in medicine. And they found an EMR called Dentamax, and we've given them money for this, but they need more training. They have training, $9,000 extra training fee, which they have $2,000, is that right? And we
It's 12,000 in total, they have 3,000,
Okay.
they did 9,000 additional.
which it would be good to give them, because then we get all of the data from electronically, from what they're doing instead of paper.
Right, real time, into mind sharing,
Accurate.
accurate.
So do we need a motion for that?
Yes, we need a motion for that.
Motion.
We have a motion to approve the spend of $9,000 to provide for the training.
In the allocation of the budget from the trustee designated.
I think that would be where we would need to take it from, right?
What's the alternative?
There
Okay.
isn't.
The accounting firm.
There's no alternative.
Thanks,
There
Matt.
is nothing.
I'll second it, but I have a question. What happens if we don't, do they find other money somewhere to do it? Does it not happen?
It probably does not happen. Stephanie, is that correct?
I believe so, right? So we pretty much need to go.
And we've already
So
expensed the money to,
they're complying with our request. Our
Yes.
request is that you feed us data, they don't have the ability to do this as a way to do it, and so we're paying for it.
and we've already purchased part of their program or their program to do this.
No fairness, they could get it done, but just not serving as many people because we give them 700,000 a year.
Mhm.
So
Well, they are getting it done. I mean, it's
I think
sketches and
they do
issues. working hard.
We just can't validate some of it without it coming
Is
directly.
anything transferable to the HMIS stuff? Because-
Yes.
Oh, that's a
Oh,
big
wait a
thing.
minute. Oh, you mean,
Draw funds down from the state?
that I don't know.
No, and we talked with her about whether or not she was inputting it, I know Brandon did.
Yeah, she's not using that right now.
Who is it?
And
Well, I thought we voted a while back that they don't get, nobody's getting funding unless they go through the HMIS, and then their argument was it's too expensive, and then HMIS came back and said it's free. And we said, you're not gonna get your funding. I know we had that
We put that
conversation,
in their grant agreement that they needed to.
but they're not doing it.
we asked them this year who's participating, so we know who is. That's what we did this year.
Didn't we put it in their grant agreement that they were to participate in it?
I'll check
Yeah, we
what
did.
everybody we were asking them.
And I mean, Ann does a great job, but there's significant funding. We can draw it down from the state if they only fill out that paperwork. Now, maybe we can make her life a lot easier
But
by putting it in here, then this will somehow,
Yeah.
matrix over to that,
Yeah.
which would save
because
her.
not every client she serves is.
Oh,
Absolutely, but there's a significant amount.
Yeah, okay. That's a really good point. And so, and we did meet with the HMIS liaison that's in charge of the interfaces, so we'll validate that we can upload this into there. Is it?
Sure, that would easily pay us $9,000.
Yeah, more so, yeah.
Any other questions? So we have a motion and we have a second, right, Ken? You did second
Yeah.
that? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next thing is the citywide step challenge, which I think Jessica we have a video from the mayor.
No, we do not have a video tonight, however, he has done several videos for this. So before we launch into our quarter-one updates, I'm going to briefly give you an update on the citywide step challenge. As a part of our initiative with Mayor Marciano for a Healthy Ocala, he has gotten all of the city council members to create their own teams. They're all actively recruiting individuals from the city based on zip code to join their teams. And every day we're seeing this growing. So it's been a really great challenge thus far. We've seen a significant increase in active users just this fiscal year. We have over 6,000 active users on our app right now. In comparison, we had 3,738 at this time last year. So we're really seeing a significant amount of increase in the app usage. We've also rolled out billboards, we're doing a lot of social media campaigns, so that's actually contributing significantly to that increase. Now I'm going to jump into our updates. As you can see, the vast majority of our goals and performance measures for this year are in green. There's a few things that I'm going to note for items that are not. So for example, when you're looking at the fan scorecard, for physical education, we will not see outcome data until the end of the year. And that's because we measure all of those goals from pre at the beginning of the school year to post. So that data will be forthcoming towards the end of the school year. You can see some of the data that was collected thus far at the beginning of the school year, but we won't see outcomes till the end. And then also the data collection for secondary schools for moderate to vigorous physical activity. This is the first year we've implemented that. And she's starting data collection right now in January for that particular goal. We're also starting to see, this is the time of year where we see a serious increase in harvest production and for items going into school cafeterias. And that's mainly because it takes schools a little while to get going in September, and then we have holidays and then Christmas break. So we're excited to see where that's going. We have a huge increase. I got a bunch of pictures today from multiple schools. We also have 42 garden plantings scheduled for the month of February. So it's going to be very busy. And that's all of our public elementary schools, our private schools, and our therapeutic gardens. Moving forward to community home project, again, a lot of green. All of our goals are going very well for community home projects. I will note on here at the end of their goals, we have a couple of items that were blank, and that was because they just started their very first class for diabetes education. They had the largest class we've ever had there. We had 16 participants last week with their diabetes education class, and it went very well. Also, another item to note, we have almost met our goal for the entire fiscal year for dental and medical assistance. We added on referrals to Estella Bird Whitman this year, and we are at 248 individuals that have been assisted with medical and dental. Our goal was 250. That's pretty impressive. And then I'm gonna end with Active Marion project. They are mostly all in green. The team has been very busy this fiscal year. One thing to note for our Active Marion project, we have 26 wellness sessions that are scheduled between next week and next month. So the staff are gonna be very busy going out to all of our work sites. We have 28 active work sites so far. So last year we had 51 work sites that were actively engaged. And already in Q1, we have 28 work sites that are actively engaging. So we're continuing to increase that. And we've added 7 new work sites already this fiscal year. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Great job. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Matt?
Good evening. We're in the packet beginning on page 45 of the financial statements for the month and periods in December, November, and September. We are seeking approval of these financial statements, so let me know if you have any questions as we go. Not a lot of change on the balance sheet except for, as discussed earlier in the investment presentation by Wilshire, December was not a good month for the investments. We realized some pretty significant holding losses due to market conditions, which they already elaborated on. Otherwise, the balance sheet of the organization remained pretty stable period to period. There's going to be, when we look at the January financial statements next month, there's going to be a lot more changes. We have to wait until basically last week, that portion of January every year, to update the final financial statements per the ongoing financial statement audit. Every year we're audited, our year end is September 30th. We can't even give Purvis Gray, the audit firm, the final pieces of information until about last week. Part of that's related to the reporting by FRS for the pension plan. And then we also hold the investment valuation period open as long as possible as well. So there will be adjustments to the financial statements, especially these lines that don't seem to move very much throughout the periods related to the pensions specifically, and the investments a little bit as well. Otherwise, the organization operating in compliance with its budget. We don't see a forecast in the areas where we're expecting them to have, the organization to have exceeded its budget in any particular one item.
Good. All right. Any questions from Matt? If not, we need a motion to approve the financials for December of 2024.
Motion.
We have a motion. We need a second. We have a second from Dr. Ron. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. What business we need to conduct? All right. With that being said, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Spot there.
A couple meetings ago, I really